Yo, I'm extra salty because this is my third time making this video. The first time, for whatever reason, I wasn't getting the audio. I don't know what that's about. And then the second time, I don't know what went on. I'm still trying to figure out this Mac. Um, but listen, man, it's a beautiful day in East Birmingham, where nothing ever goes on. Quiet neighborhood, right? Anyways, so yeah, listen, man. This video is about you Grand Rising Negroes. Now, if you don't know what the hell a Grand Rising Negro is, then this video is probably not for you, and that's okay. That's okay. You're more than welcome to watch, but don't be in the comments talking all crazy like you a professional on the topic. Don't do that. Um, but yeah, so listen, we're gonna get into it because, like I said, I'm already extra salty, and I'm gonna try not to let my frustration with this technology come through in this video because the algorithm already rewards black people fighting one another, you know. And so I was already a little skeptical about making this video because I don't like making content like this. But that doesn't change the fact that this needs to be said. It ain't nobody saying what I'm finna say, so I'm like, am I by myself out here? So dig. If you don't know what a Grand Rising Negro is, I'm referring to the term Grand Rising, which has become a replacement for the words good morning. Okay, it's replaced the term good morning in some African American communities and small little tidbits here and there. Now, well, Cash, why would anybody not want to say good morning? What's wrong with good morning? Okay, well, in some way, shape, or form, these Negroes have figured out a way to make good morning racist. Okay, now here's the thing. As somebody who, has studied the English language and the etymology of the English language and the history of how, this language actually came about, like the circumstances that had to have happened in history to give us this language, like we're talking, man, any little thing could have went wrong and we'd all be speaking a different language. Like if old buddy at the Battle of Hastings in 1066 had ate something and upset his stomach and he wasn't able to give or then we'd be speaking a different language, right? If the Viking dudes that was at that one bridge at that one battle, if they had prevailed and actually hey, we'd been whatever the case may be. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. The point I'm trying to make is Proto-Germanic is the language that you can trace the origins of good morning to. Proto-Germanic. Now, we're talking, I think, like 3rd, 4th century BC, something like that. We're talking, this is the language that, German, Dutch, Norwegian, Swedish, English, all these languages derived from. This is like a big branch on the English tree. And that's how old good morning is. So, if you're trying to figure out a way to make good morning racist, understand that racism had to have predated the transatlantic slave trade, African enslavement in the New World, the birth of Jesus Christ. Like what are we talking about here? But ultimately, my problem with Grand Rising Negroes isn't about the word Grand Rising itself. No, not at all. It's a little bit deeper because I've noticed that you Grand Rising Negroes typically have an issue with believing and understanding that you derived from people who were enslaved. Specifically people who were enslaved and brought from the continent of Africa. And for you super woke Negroes, Akubalan, right? And here's my problem with that. Understand that a lot of white folks have a problem with being descended from people who own slaves and oppressed people. But what never gets talked about is the flip side of that. There's a lot of black people that have problems with accepting the fact that they descended from people who were enslaved. Well, myself here, it's kind of the opposite for me. I take pride in spite of, what my ancestors were dealing with. I'm still somebody who can read, write, prevail, consider myself intelligent. Me and my grandfather spent quality time reading encyclopedias together. My grandfather was born into sharecropping, like just in that short time of my grandfather's life. Look at all that was overcame, And so I don't really have a problem with that. I take pride in that. But when you get into the history of what these Negroes are saying, it frustrates me, because as somebody who has an understanding of the timeline that we're speaking on behalf of, it hurts my brain. It makes my head hurt. It really does, because like, if there's anything white folks are good at, it's keeping records. White people are damn good at keeping records, and everybody can't be lying. The people that dissect genealogy and where you come from as far as your genetics and whatnot, when you send your something in my hair. Excuse my hair, by the way. My sister was supposed to braid it, but she flaked on me. Anyways, the people that break down genetics, they can't be lying in coordination with the people who kept records of the slave ships coming into whatever port. Like, it doesn't make sense. Everybody can't be lying. The fact of the matter is, somebody, somewhere, was responsible for traveling the Atlantic Ocean with cargo. And that cargo was people. And those people would become enslaved. And not just the United States. Actually, a very small portion of people in the transatlantic slave trade would even become, Southern Negro Africanus, your boy here. But the vast majority would go to the Caribbean and South America by far. It's not even close. Like a very small fraction went to North America. But the point I'm trying to make is this belief that black people were already in America. We already existed here, and then the white folks came over and enslaved us. And like, there's so much wrong with that. First and foremost, back to what I said about everybody can't be lying. Basically, you're saying that all of the native peoples, their oral tradition records of what they say, you're basically saying that they all lying, okay? Because that ain't what they say. And don't get it twisted. They did a decent job of keeping records themselves, depending on, where you speaking on behalf of, geographically speaking, in America. But like, you listen to what the Mapuche say. You listen to what the Mohicans say. You listen to what the Paiutes and the Cherokee and the Chickasaw and the Nez Perce. And my thing is, where is their mention of, these African people that, for whatever reason got snatched up and enslaved? And how come they just never saw them? They never mentioned them in their recorded history. Like, it doesn't make sense. Now, here's the thing. I 100% believe wholeheartedly that African people were intelligent enough to traverse the Atlantic Ocean. And I believe that they came to America and did whatever they wanted to do, and whatever. Same with the Polynesians. I believe that the Polynesians were intelligent enough as, sailors to traverse the Pacific Ocean and go to the Americas. You should actually do some research on the word sweet potato, the word for sweet potato. I want to say, I can't remember which tribe it is on the west coast of the Americas, but they have like the same word for sweet potatoes as, the Polynesian people. And the only way that's possible is they had communication, right? So yeah, do I believe that Africans came to the New World? And yeah, absolutely. But now, did they murk everybody and populate and set up shop? And it's like, what are we talking about here? We don't have enough evidence to back that up. White people would have to have been masterminds at deception and keeping things a secret. Which, if we're gonna be real, like, I'm not going to be white devil's advocate by any means, but at the same time, it's like, think about what would have to happen in order for white folks to come over here, destroy an entire race of black people via murder and enslavement, and then somehow get these other native people, right, who've got their own distinct cultures, the Cherokee, Chickasaw, the whoever, whatever, get them to hush about it, be quiet about it. Y'all ever think about that? How come the native people that, I guess also are African or whatever, how come they ain't speaking on it? Like, it does not make sense in the context of history. I hate to break it to you. And I know it's a hard pill to swallow that you derived from people who were enslaved, but this concept of like black people already existed and the Americas as we know it, it's just it doesn't hold up. I'm sorry. I hate to break it to you. It's not real. Nobody in their right mind who has ever kept a record is able to validate any of this. And righteously, if I'm keeping it real, I think you niggas are disgusting. You disgust me. You repulse me. You make my skin crawl because you would rather have an issue with the etymology of the English language. You'd rather have an issue with a phrase than actually have an issue with things that actually originate from terrible, messed up, racist origins. Like, there are so many more terrible things that we say in our everyday language, vernacular, whatever, that have terrible origins, and y'all don't want to take up arms against that. You would rather have an issue with the English language than actually trying to go out and dismantle these systems in place that actually oppress us. Like, you niggas are disgusting. Like, no, it's awful. I can't stand y'all. But now, of course, like I said, the internet wants to see us black folk, bickering and arguing and whatnot, and so that's all I'm gonna say. I don't want this video to get too long. Yeah, they riding around. I think that's Real Slow by Lil Boosie they listening to. That's a good song. Hey man, go listen to Real Slow by Lil Boosie on a slow creep on a Sunday afternoon. Make sure you roll the windows down. Y'all stay blessed. Y'all stay up. Man, hold on. I had to spin the block on y'all because, like, bro, so in order for this to be real, like, the Portuguese would have to be lying, the Spanish would have to be lying, the Dutch would have to be lying. All them white folk over there would have to be lying about the records they kept about. Man, hold on. Dig this. If what y'all said is true, where does nappy hair come from? Because don't none of the people indigenous to the Americas, they don't have this. They don't have this shit at all. Their hair don't nap like this. They got long, flowy, silky hair. What's up with that? What? How come y'all niggas run around with box braids then and dreads? How? Where does that come from? I'm just saying, bro. Like, y'all tripping, man. Y'all really tripping, bro. Straight up. Real slow. Take a ride with me, nigga. With a 5-boat ride on a nigga. Real slow. Take a ride with me, nigga. Where the good niggas die by the trigger.